Hey, Graphic Design 1. So this tutorial is going to be the same tutorial as the Illustrator one. It's only going to be for Gravit. So if you're on a Chromebook, if you have Gravit account for Gravit, go ahead and log on and follow along with me as I go through the process of working on Gravit and doing our first project. Okay. So here we go. I am in my Google web browser. I'm going to go to Gravit, not Gravity. There you go. Gravit Designer. I'm already logged in, so when I come to this page, I click on Start Now, and it gets me ready to roll. Okay, I'm going to start with a new design. Like in Illustrator and Photoshop, it's really important that we set up our file correctly, so I'm going to select my units of measure. I'm going to click here, and instead of going px for pixels, we're working in vectors now. So the pixels aren't really important for us. We're going to go down to inches. I'm going to click on my width, and I'm going to make that 10. I'm going to click on my height, and I'm going to make that 10. And once I get that set up, I'm going to click Create. Simple as that. Not worried about naming our files or anything like that yet. Okay. Now, once I'm here, it looks a little bit different than Photoshop did. All of our layer stuff that we used to have down here in Photoshop is now over here on the left-hand side. So it says Layers. Okay. It also works in Pages, which we won't have to worry about right now. Our toolbar that was normally on the left-hand side has now been relocated to the top of our screen. And then over on the right-hand side is a lot of our other information that applies to our project. Okay. So the first thing we're going to work on is kind of making some basic shapes. So on my toolbar up at the very top, we see this icon that has a square and a circle, and it's called Shape. There's a little triangle next to it, which is a drop triangle, which means if I click on that, like in Photoshop, there are all of these little extra adds underneath it. Okay, there's a line tool, a rectangle tool, ellipse, polygon, triangle. And if you see these three right here have their own little quick keys, L, R, and E. For the purpose of our project and the intro, I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. And once I have the rectangle tool, I can come to my canvas that I see right here. And I'm just going to click and drag to create a rectangle. Okay. Now, some basics. This program right here gives us a little setup that looks like this. We see these 8 little dots around the outside here. And those signify the outside of my shape. Okay, if I see these, that means that I can grab and adjust my shape to whatever size or length or width I would like. Also, if I drag a little bit outside of this, see how my cursor turns from a diagonal arrow into a curved arrow, and that means I can click and drag it to rotate my shape. Control Z will undo that, as it does in most programs. And then what I'm going to do is get this position where I want it to be. So I'm going to leave mine right here. If I click on my background, it will deselect my shape. As you can see, I still have a shape here. I just don't have a fill color or anything else. Now, I want to add a color to the inside of this box. So if you go with me over to the right-hand side of the screen, we have a couple options over here. We have our appearance, we have our fills, our borders, and our effects. What you need to do is for each shape that you're working with, you need to add one of these individually. So I want to add a fill to my shape. So off here to the side, I'm going to click on Add Fill, and that will fill the color of my box. Now that I have this here, I can select that color, and I can adjust this any color I would like, very much like we did with Photoshop. Okay. You can come down here and select specific colors if you would like, but I'm going to keep it pretty simple and say I'm going to go get to a green. Let's see, a dark green, like that. Once I'm done, I can click on my layers and I'm ready to go. If I deselect, I see that I now have a box that is green. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a border. Now, I'll refer to this a lot as a stroke, because in Illustrator, they're called fill colors and stroke colors. In Gravit here, they call it a border, but it's the same concept. So if I click on add border and I deselect over here, you see my border is a black border. And that means that I have a black outline around here now. So if I take my zoom up here, it's at 100% right now, but I take my zoom and I move it up. See, as I zoom in, I have a black border around the outside of my shape. Okay, let me zoom back out by clicking on the left. Okay, so I've gone through my shape's fill color, my shape's stroke color. The other thing you can add here is, see off to the side of my black shape where I have this one point. If I click on that, I can press my arrow up, my arrow key on my keyboard, and that will make my stroke larger. I can take this color and adjust it again, but see what that does is it adjusts the color of my stroke itself on the outside. Now, I have my fill, it's very Christmassy. I have my fill and I have my stroke color. If I would like to as well, I could take the opacity of my stroke. And the opacity is basically how transparent it is. So right now I have 100% opacity, which means there's no transparency whatsoever. But what I can do is I can click on my colors, and then this little dial underneath it, I can take that all the way down. And you see what happens is my green isn't changing in shade, it's actually becoming more transparent. So it's totally going away. If you look over here, you can see, like we have in Photoshop, you have that little transparency grid. That means that you have a clear setting for your fill color. Okay? So if I deselect this, this is just now a red rectangle, like a red rectangular frame, instead of a solid red rectangle. Alright? To adjust this, I can just click on this shape again, and I will be okay. Now over here, in the layers, we have rectangle. I can turn my layer off, as I could in Photoshop. And I can also, if I would like, click here, this lock toggle, where if I click that, that allows me to let this layer stay locked and I can no longer edit it. So that means I can add other things to it. If I would like to, I can go to my shapes and I can click and add another rectangle. This one is currently filled with white, so I'm going to take my fill and I'm going to adjust that to a darker red, like that. I will not use border color. I'll leave it like this. But as you can see with my rectangle over here, this rectangle is my darker one. This one is my lighter one. I can take my darker rectangle and drag it underneath my lighter one, and it should go like this. Now let me see this real quick. We have an issue with this. I can't select this red. Why not? Correct. My lock is on. If I select this, I do have two fill colors here. So this white one right here, I can take that visibility down as well, and now we're good. Here's my transparent rectangular frame, and here's my other rectangle. Pretty good. Okay, if I would like to duplicate this layer right here, I can press our quick keys, Control C, Control V, and like any other program, that will copy it and paste it. I can also hold the Alt key, and what Alt does is it allows you to click and drag it. And by clicking and dragging it, if I hold onto Alt the entire time, it will continue to make duplicates. Now, we understand that all of these duplicates that we have are being made on a similar layer, all underneath this original red frame. If I select my red frame, I see it's on top of everything else over here. It's slightly darker than the rest. And I can take this red frame and drag it over here underneath a couple other of these rectangles. Okay? It's kind of fun playing around with this stuff. I can add my strokes, I can make the colors change, I can get rid of fill colors or strokes as a whole. And then when I'm ready to go, I can take my arrow, I can click and drag, select all of them, and press backspace, and it will delete my entire thing. Okay? So we have duplicated, we have changed or created new shapes, we have added color to the inside to the stroke, we've adjusted the stroke. All of these things are necessary for our project, which comes up right now, which is going to be creating a robot in the program Gravit. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go right now, I'm going to start creating a robot. You can follow along if you would want. I'm not going to get too detailed with it because I don't want you to sit here and watch this for 30 minutes. So I will talk about these things as I go through it. Might go fairly quickly. If you have to, feel free to pause so you can make sure you catch up. But this will be the process of doing our next project. So hopefully you enjoy this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to use my rectangle tool and I'm going to create a robot or a head for my robot. So I'm going to click and drag like this. And there's my head. Another little tip, if I double click on this, and I just found this out recently, see these little orange dots that pop up when I double click? If I drag those and pull them in, they work to round out my corners of my shape, which is pretty fun. Because now I can take this square that I had and I can round the corners a little bit to make it look a little more mechanical. So I can do that. I'm going to take my fill color and I'm going to make my robot medium gray. You do not have to make your robot gray. You can do whatever color you would like. And I think that's a good start for me. Okay, position my head over here a little bit. Now I'm going to make a neck to my robot. So I'm going to add another shape, rectangle again. I'm going to go, let's go like this. Make a really thin neck. And I'm going to move this neck off to the side here. Now, because they're both the same color, I can't really see the difference between these two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gray layer that I have. I'm going to select my color and I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Now I can tell the difference between the two of them. I will also select this layer, which you see on top, and I'll drag that down underneath my head, putting the neck behind it, and now it does this. I kind of like that. Let's go ahead and switch it up a little bit and do this. Okay. I want this color to be the same one as this. So when I select my shape, and I select my fill color, you see what happens is I can drag this color picker out here, and when I select it, it will take that same color and add it to there for me. It's pretty nice. I'm going to take this little new neck extension that I made, and I'm going to curve it, and I'm going to go like this to make this guy look kind of funny. I can use my arrow keys to move around my shape if I would like, just to be a little more precise. And there, I'll leave him right there. Now I'm going to go like this with my next shape, and I'm going to use an ellipse. Now, an ellipse is basically an oval, or if I want to make it a circle, I hold, that's the right tool. If I want to make it a circle, I hold Shift, and Shift will constrain it to be a perfect circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shape, I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to take my color of my shape, click on my eyedropper, come up here, make those two the same shape. Let's go like this. Use our Alt button. I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to click and drag this circle. And then, now that I've made a duplicate, I'm going to click and drag this down, but I'm going to hold Shift to change the size of this circle to be smaller, like so. Okay. I'm going to work on an eyeball for my robot. I'm going to do one solid eyeball. So I'm going to go back to my rectangles. I'm going to drag a bar right across here. It's a solid white right now. I'm going to fill this with red. That's creepy looking. And then what I'm going to do right here is add what they call a gradient. Now if I make a linear gradient, see what happens right here is this goes from left to right, from red to black. If I would like to, I can click over here and add another color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this. I'm going to take my red on the left and drag it to the right. So that puts that red in the middle. And now I have these black eyes with the red little laser appearance glow to be on the inside. If there's a color I don't want, like right here, say this is a blue. I don't want to use this color, although that's kind of cool. I will just click on the color, drag down, and that'll get rid of it. Okay, grab this one, I'll move it to the middle, and I think that's pretty good. Now I have my gradient eyes on my face for my robot right here. Okay, here's my shape. Let me go like this, and I'm going to adjust this a little bit. I'm going to move it down. I'm going to change this shape up. I'm going to make it black. I will hold Alt. I'll click and drag to the right, making my new circle. And then I will click and drag that back. So now I have a circle on top of itself. I will take this black and make it a little bit darker, or sorry, a little lighter gray. Then I will adjust the size and scale of this by dragging it down, but I will hold Shift, as I said before, and then I'll also hold Alt. What that will do is that will constrain it to the center of the circle, so I can keep these both in line, and I will let go, and I'll go like that. Now it looks like I have a little wheel. Now I'm going to select both of these layers. So I'm going to click on this first one, and I'm going to hold Shift to click on the second one. What that does is that it's selected both of these. So if I hold Alt and I click and drag, now you see what's happening is I'm duplicating both of those shapes, so I don't have to make a full new tire. I can just have these two. I have my two tires right here. If I want to duplicate this as well, I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to hold Shift and I'm going to click on this tire, the inside of this tire, the outside of that tire. Now all four of these are duplicated. I will hold Alt, click and drag. Now that gives me a little bit of depth. And with these two ellipses, and you can see them darkened right here, I want to drag all of those down to the bottom. So I can drag this one down. See how that's going behind. I don't really need to worry about this color anymore. I'm going to drag this one, you see right here, down behind. Don't worry about this one. And then what I will do is I will take maybe these two colors, and I will take that color and make it a little bit lighter, just enough to show that there's two different sets of wheels. There you go. Okay. Little simple ways to do this. You can have as much fun as you want with it. One last thing that I need to add is, say I want to move this body, but every time I go to click and drag this body, it selects everything else. I don't want to move everything else. This is where our lock comes into play. So if I know that this right here, this ellipse is the one that I want to freeze, I can go to the layer and click and lock all these other layers. See how it's locking them all. I'm going to come up here as well. Lock, lock. And then when I click on this, I can select the entire image and it only moves this one shape. Okay? It's very, very, very helpful, especially when you're using a lot of different layers. I can come through and I can unlock all these layers. And then I can get back to work and add more stuff. Now, if I like how this looks, I can use my arrows to select the whole thing. I can click and drag. I don't want to stretch it like this. It's not good. But I'm going to select it and drag it larger. I'm going to make sure I hold shift, and I can make it fit more of my canvas, and I can get it ready to turn in. Now, this is like the bare minimum of what your robot should look like, okay? Be as creative as you would like, but I want to see that you're taking a lot of time and effort going through this program, getting comfortable with creating shapes, adding colors, adding strokes if you would like to, making objects. So have fun, play with this thing. I want to see something original that you have created on your own, okay? Remember, when you are done with this, make sure you save it. So I will come here and I'll go File. You can go Download File, or you can go Save. This is hooked up to my Google folder right now, which you can definitely do. And when I come to save this, my title is going to be last name. And you're going to title this Robot. Last name, Robot. Make sure your last name is first. Once that's done, I will click Save. And it saves it, and I'm ready to go. Okay. I hope that went really well. I hope you understand what's going on now. Have fun, play around with this, learn this program, because it's going to get a little more intense as we go. This should be, as you see, a pretty quick project to get done. So this will be due on Friday, 11:59 p.m. Make sure you follow the steps, turn in your file, and we will be ready to go. Okay. Good luck for the rest of the week. What's going to happen is our classes will basically be check-ins where you can send me your progress. You can check in and ask me questions. You can feel free to email me questions, but we won't have any more lessons for the rest of this week. You'll just be working on this when time permits it, and we'll be getting it done, turned all in on Friday. All right? Hope you're doing great. Hope you're staying safe, and be creative.